countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it is now time for more of the last comic shop!
That's right, we are opening up the shop to newbies so that they can beam down.
Ooh!
And enter the comic book tent, hopefully not wearing a red shirt.
That's right.
There we go. And we're keeping the lights on for the oldies that know not to wear the red shirts because they are down with the two franchises that we are mashing up today, the X-Men and Star Trek.
That's right. It's a classic matchup, and I am the host with the most, Andy Larson, joined up with those folks that I always match up with very, very well. That's my co-host, Jay Scott and Chad Smith. And believe it or not, we kind of get a little bit of a break this week because technically we already reviewed this book, right, gentlemen?
That's right. We covered this on our live stream for The Cure, where we went and we're raising money for cancer awareness and cancer research. And we talked about this book on that show, though I have to admit, we didn't get enough. There's not enough Star Trek. This came out in the 90s, but it was channeling 90s X-Men with 60s Star Trek. It should have been channeling 70s X-Men with 70s Star Trek. That's right, Star Trek the motion picture. I wanted bell-bottom Kirk.
Bell-bottom Phase 2, come on.
What we didn't get enough of were the TV show mashups. Like I had this whole thing with Newhart, and we had Bob and his brother Daryl, and his other brother Daryl, and his other brother Sleepwalker. Who wouldn't watch that?
All right, guys. Well, let's get to the Archive Rama 3000. We'll go ahead and open up the vault. Let's go back and listen to us reviewing this book, X-Men Star Trek from Live Stream for The Cure.
Law and Order, but with Punisher and Daredevil.
I think they did that already.
Dun, dun, dun. Mama's Family, but it's set in Gotham City, and Vinton gets himself as one of the Joker's gangs, and Mama has to sit him down and have a stern talking to and sets the Riddler straight.
As I said, we were trying to raise money for cancer research. It's a wonderful event every single year, and it's the 4th year that we've been involved with it, Live Stream for the Cure. So thank you so much to the Live Stream for the Cure for having us on. And for those folks that missed it, here's your opportunity to hear that awesome review. Now, keep in mind, this is a live stream. It was a fundraiser, so there's interruptions with dollar amounts and all kinds of miscellaneous bric-a-brac that you typically don't get on these shows, but this is a treat for all of our listeners.
The Jeffersons, but it's set in Wakanda.
That's actually kind of brilliant.
George Jefferson forever.
Thank you.
That one would work.
We're moving on up.
To Wakanda. But no, before we go, I did want to mention Live Stream for the Cure has been a fundraiser. It's been running for 8 years straight. So for any of our audience out there that's listening to this episode and is thinking, man, I wish I could have contributed to that, stay tuned. You can visit their website. You can find more ways to donate to help research cures for cancer. And in all seriousness, we do a lot of silliness here on this show. This is one of the things that we've been able to do these last couple of years that really helps me to feel like we're giving back. And so if anybody else out there in their audience wants to help give back as well, Live Stream for the Cure is a wonderfully valiant effort that we support. We hope you do too.
All right. Well, without further ado, here is that past recording of Star Trek and X-Men.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to welcome in the crew, Andy and the team from Last Comic Shop.
We're the Last Comic Shop. I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and Jay Scott. I don't know if he said that already, but long story short, we are the Last Comic Shop podcast, bringing the fun back into funny books. We want to make sure that everybody out there knows that comic books are for everybody. And we educate and make sure that folks know that they can go into a comic book shop today, find tons of books that are out there, something for everybody. And we hope that we entertain you for the next hour, raising some money for helping out the Cancer Research Institute, which I'm again for the 4th straight year in a row Thanks so much for having us on, Nick.
Thank you for coming back.
We are so overjoyed to be on this event every single year, and hopefully we bring you some cash. I mean, I came to play, brother. Came to play. So
if you guys start reading Twilight, more money might come in. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. There's an Avengers Twilight book happening right now. It just wrapped up last month.
Yeah. So, Chad, did you show the book that we were going to be doing today?
I did, yeah. So, traditionally we do the big crossovers, and this year we are bringing the X-Men and Star Trek.
We're bringing all the geeks together, not
That's
just
right.
the X-Men
That's,
comic
that's
geeks,
wild.
That is very
but
wild.
the Star Trek geeks as well. And the story actually, while being from the 1990s, has some serious throwback appeal because it goes back to the issue 125 of the X-Men, so that's late 70s, and season 1, episode 3 of Star Trek.
And Jay had already pointed out that this is a story that dates back to the prime Was it Byrne?
John Byrne,
still-
yes, yeah, Chris
still
Claremont,
talking,
John Byrne.
Absolutely, and it continues a trend on of the Last Comic Shop podcast's segments on these shows, in which we tackle some of the more interesting comic book team-ups that are out there. We did Superman and Spider-Man. We did Superman versus Muhammad Ali, which I think Nick commented. He's like, "What? How is that a fair fight?" And but we showed how it was.
I'm even more curious about this one, to be honest. Like, I'm just like, what?
But I think Nick, it took that one step further the following year when we did Batman versus Hulk. And as I remember, you were on my side, Nick, with saying glad that Hulk actually won that, because Batman plus time does not equal win. That's a cop.
If this wasn't clear, I don't make me find my meme that I have that's like Batman syndrome, where it's like realistically any superpowered superhero would strangle Batman with his own asshole. Especially the Hulk.
There you go. It's the exposed mouth.
Yeah,
That's really
in this year you get Wolverine versus Spock.
Heck yeah. Not only that, you get the 2 Dr. McCoys.
Right.
Someone says Dr. McCoy, and everybody turns around.
Absolutely.
I'm so
we
into
were
this.
having some fun, though, this morning when we were talking about what we were going to do on this segment, because, again, the book is fairly short. It's only about 45 pages, beginning to end. There's some back matter where they're teasing a bunch of other Star Trek books that Marvel was putting out in the mid-90s, but simply put, there's not much of a story here. So I woke up this morning to 29 text messages from Chad, who was on his morning commute, talking about other awesome comic book sitcom / TV show mashups that we potentially could have. Chad, do you want to go through your list, or should I?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. Since we commonly do these team-ups and mashups and everything else, one of the things we propose for the live stream for the Cure audience is for a minor, meager $5 or more donation, you can give us elements that we will mash up for you very quickly. And so this morning I woke up and I was on my commute into work, and it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. This is more than just a comic book mashup. This is a comic book TV mashup. And so that's going to be our theme for this year. What would happen if your favorite comic book characters were mashed up with your favorite classic TV shows?
Yeah.
And so I got a couple examples just to get the ball rolling. So one was the Wonder Girl years, starring Danica McKellar, is that her name? As the Teen Titans resident math specialist. You'd still have Kevin Arnold, Fred Savage. You'd still have him there whining about things, asking obnoxious questions in Titans Tower, along with the rest of the Titans, Beast Boy, Robin. But this time around, remember the neighbor? What was the neighbor on the Wonder Years? The kid with the glasses?
No, I
nerdy.
don't actually. I just know it was the girlfriend Whitney, maybe?
But we all know who he turned into, right? The geeky neighbor turned into Marilyn Manson, who in this scenario, the Wonder Girl years, would team up with Brother Blood and wreak havoc all across the sea. But so that was one that I texted at 6 a.m. Let's see,
I like
another one.
George from Seinfeld joins the Justice League International and sends Despero a Christmas gift of a donation to the Human Fund. At which point Despero wants to know what the hell that's all about. Is there feats of strength involved there? Booster Gold would be awesome for the feats of strength. He would just be like...
Let's just say aluminum would go everywhere. And then J.A. hit me with one of my favorites out of the blue. Do you remember yours, J.A.?
Well, I had the Three's Company mashed with Gwen Stacy, MJ, and Peter Parker.
Yeah. Wow. And Mr. Roper still. Just peeking in to see what's going on. Wondering where the hell is that Peter Parker going?
You could have J. Jonah Jameson be the Mr. Roper character.
That's good.
No, that wasn't the one that got me. Jay, you had another...
The Cheers one?
No.
Oh, right, yes. I had the Real Housewives of
Hellfire Club.
So, like what? Like White Queen and Black Queen and all those?
Yes.
Just smacking those people around, accusing people.
Wow.
That's the premise. You think of two shows that will mash up, and we'll do that thing. You want to go Gilligan's Island and the X-Men's Krakoan Island? It's just all the professors trying to bang Mary Ann. But we can mash them up.
Sure,
we'll make it happen.
This is an all-ages show. You just...
I won't tell you about my Alf Tyra one then. I'll keep
so
just tune it in. Just tune it in.
I'm surprised. Did in that 29 because I stopped reading all of the 29 text chat. Did you say MASH and G.I. Joe or no?
No, it didn't get there. I did get Friends, but instead of the ugly naked guy, they have the Punisher. And they peek out their window, just watch the Punisher killing people. Watch Ross pivot.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you donate a measly $5, you can throw out a comic book and a TV show, or heck, even like 2 TV shows. We'll mash those up. That's fine. We'll put our
MTV Cribs with Lil Wayne and Bruce Wayne. Lil Wayne accidentally discovers the Bat Cave. Hilarity and trauma ensue. It'd be great.
But while we wait,
the A-Team mixed with Fantastic Four, or Cheers, where everybody knows your alter ego name.
Nice.
Right.
It's just so. In any case, while we wait for folks to give us some of these mashups to work on, let's go ahead and get started with the show, as we often do. We like to start off with talking about the creators that were involved with this mashup of X-Men and Star Trek.
Okay, so this came out in 1996, the heyday for Marvel crossovers, which, by the way, that Marvel DC Omnibus that's coming out later on this year, rumor has it's only going to be one printing, so get it while it's hot.
Yeah.
But in this one, this came out through Marvel and Top Cow representing Paramount Comics. It was written by Scott Lobdell, and then the founder of Top Cow on pencils, Marc Silvestri, was assisted by Billy Tan, Andrew Wynn, and David Finch. And background assists, Brian Ching, I should say. And then on inking duties, you have Bat, D-Tron, Billy Tan, Aaron Sawa, and Joe Weems, along with assists by Victor Lamas, Team Tron, Joseph Jag Gillian, Viet Trong, and Mike Mansazarek. Those are names that I've said.
That is a hefty name right there. Hey, by the way, speaking of Scott Lobdell, because he wrote this, he was the guy that took over for Chris Claremont when Chris Claremont said, enough with Jim Lee, right? Like there was a point when Chris would write a script, he'd send it to Jim. Jim would draw like 2 pages and then change something, and then he'd have to re-script it. And then they brought Scott in, right? Or no?
Well, initially it was John Byrne.
Oh, okay.
Scripting duties, but that didn't last long. Shortly thereafter, Scott Lobdell took over the X-Books and held them through the heyday. Everybody talks about the X-Men 97 cartoon, which had those Jim Lee designs, but the books that were coming out through 92 through 97, those were your Scott Lobdells, drawn by the Kuberts, and that ran X-Men. John Romita Jr. was in there.
Was he a stand-up comedian previously to being a writer? Like, I thought I don't know. I'm trying to think of that Marvel, The Untold Story. I thought he was like a stand-up comedian or something.
I just remember he was available. They were looking for a writer, and he was like, I'll do it. And they're like, okay. It's the best-selling book in the universe, and go ahead, buddy. And they gave him the gig.
Wow. Well, without further ado, J.A., can you give us the 10-cent synopsis for what happens in this mashup of Not a galaxy far, far away. No, it's.
It was in a galaxy far, far. Well, no, not a galaxy far, far. It was our galaxy, just in the future, because Star Trek exists in our galaxy. So the X-Men came to us. It starts out with the Enterprise near Delta Vega, and if you're a big, there we go.
Here comes the money.
All right, we've got Panel Pals of the Last Comic Shop, a $200 donation. You guys serious? Come on now. Love it.
Hey, those are the kids. They saved their pennies.
Thank you.
They're buying more comics. They're sending you the money for that cancer research.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. $200 donation. Officially now the biggest donation we've gotten so far. The biggest single donation, I should say, that we've gotten so far this year. So thank you so much. It's amazing. But they didn't give you anybody to mash up, though. So
that's all right. As I was saying, so the 10-cent synopsis is essentially the Star Trek crew has gone to Delta Vega, and if you're a Star Trek fan, you know that is where Lieutenant Gary Mitchell from Episode 3, Where No Man Has Gone Before, died. They've gone there because of space anomaly, and that space anomaly is the energy of Gary Mitchell mixing with the energy of Proteus, Moira McTaggart's son from Uncanny X-Men. He premiered in 125 as Mutant X. He's this energy being. His mutant power is energy, and he reanimates corpses and takes over other people. So Deathbird from the Shire Empire has been chasing this energy to try to capture it and become powerful and overthrow her sister. And she gets sucked into the Star Trek universe, but not alone. She gets sucked in with the X-Men who are chasing her and trying to stop her. And this is the X-Men from the 90s. So you get 60s Star Trek, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and 90s X-Men, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Gambit, Wolverine, Beast. So there's 2 Dr. McCoys. Yes, that's right.
That's right.
And the Star Trek crew and the X-Men crew have to tag team and meet up to try to defeat this Proteus, Gary Mitchell, Grodius mixture that has become this bad thing. Deathbird kind of is there for a bit, and then she gets knocked around. Delta Vega, if you're a big Star Trek fan, that is the location of Episode 3 of the original series, Where No Man Has Gone Before. That is the episode where Jim Kirk's best friend, Gary Mitchell, becomes a god, essentially, and then is marooned on a planet and killed. And there's a big...
the second pilot they shot after the case?
Correct, yes. And had Gary Lockwood,
yes,
who was a big star at the time.
Right.
As Lieutenant Gary Mitchell. Anyways.
Boris Kelly, nowhere in the episode. And they all wear weird...
But he is in this book, so...
He is! But you are leaving out so many awesome points of this. So you've got...
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. I mean, we're going to talk about the fact that Wolverine goes after Spock and gets nerve pinched.
You got Gladiator, who everybody knows is kind of like one of the Superman stand-ins of the Marvel Universe. Super godly, powerful guy. He punches the Enterprise. Like... The Enterprise is just there. He just decides to wail on it. And I think that's the most interesting thing about this entire series. Comic book tropes, again, punching, laser blasts, things like that, kind of mashing up with those crazy costumes of the original series of Star Trek. Kind of like the bell-bottom pants and the boots and like the fact that Kirk is hitting on Jean Grey at one point. Oh, you're so voluptuous there. Yeah, that's what my...
Well, that's one of the things I loved about it is the Star Trek characters are very much, drawn like Star Trek in their normal outfits, but the X-Men are very much drawn like cartoons of the 90s. They're very skin tight. They're very anatomically incorrect.
Exaggerated.
I'm pretty sure Kirk was just staring daggers into those torpedoes on Jean Grey's chest there.
There you go. And I will say, from a comic fan perspective, I normally rag on the modernized coloring, but I really think it serves Silvestri and company and their art here when they're doing the likenesses of the Star Trek Enterprise characters. Like, that coloring really makes Silvestri's art pop. And you can see the best of both worlds, between his line work and then the shading, like, very rarely does it work out that well. I thought they did a great job on the colors here.
No, you're absolutely right. That one of the high points of this, regardless of how, I'm not going to lie, it's ridiculous. Like the whole 47 pages was just ridiculous. I had a hard time keeping a straight face throughout. And again, I read Batman Hulk. I actually love that book. But one of the things that was really nice was Marc Silvestri's art. This is not my favorite Silvestri. I think that's more still the Outback X-Men period. This is a little too sketchy. You could tell it's like at the time he was doing Fathom, and those
Fathom.
He didn't do Fathom. Fine, Witchblade, right? There was another girl that barely wore any clothes, and she was, I bought two copies of that.
I was going to say, speaking of things I bought multiple copies of, there's an homage in here to that Thing cover that Rob Liefeld did in Youngblood 6 with Bad Rock. But you get that with Gladiator here. How cool is that?
That's truly inside baseball there.
But that's one of the fun things about this is I'm not a Trek guy. I know the tagline about where they split the infinitive and they boldly go where no man has gone before. I know the character names and I know the Chris Pine movies. And that's about the extent of my Trek knowledge. But I was able to enjoy this and get full characterization. Well, not full characterizations, but I knew who the characters were and everything seemed natural and it seemed fun and kooky and reflective of that series. Meanwhile, I got my X-Men fix with longtime X-Men artist Marc Silvestri, so that was a win-win for me.
I was curious about J.A. Again, he is our resident, not only X-Men fan, but a longtime Star Trek fan. So, was this marriage made in heaven, or did you also think it was goofy?
I thought it was goofy a bit. They leaned more towards the X-Men characters versus the Star Trek characters, so you didn't get much of any Uhura or no Chekhov and no Sulu, really. I mean, besides some piloting. McCoy was there for the whole Dr. McCoy and Beast and Dr. McCoy turn their heads and say yes. But it was really a Kirk Spock production. And Scotty for a little bit.
Yeah.
Scotty could sense that there was Wolverine was calling around in the ductwork. That I thought was nice.
I like how they hooked Bishop up to the Enterprise, and they're just like, man, he can be our MacGuffin. We can use him to do some tractor beam hullabaloo nonsense. And his ability to do something with energy. Yeah, that'll work. Sure. And so we'll hook him up with some battery cables. And
I was surprised how well the universes melded together. I didn't anticipate Star Trek having telekinetic mutants just named Gary. I did think that was kind of a letdown.
I think, to your point, Chad, one of the best moments in this particular book was there's a moment when Kirk basically tells Jean Grey about what happened with Gary Mitchell, right? Like that Gary Mitchell got these powers, his ability to reshape reality and everything like that. And so she asked him, well, what happened after that? And he's like, well, I killed him because we couldn't have him running around like that. And she just answers him point blank for all those folks that have been watching the X-Men 97 cartoon series out there. So you just killed him because he was a mutant? And he was like, no, it was because he was crazy. But really deep down.
What I liked is you go the sort of the layer deeper is he had the ability to destroy not just himself but the entire universe, and
it's the godlike powers.
And she was like, I can kind of understand that since she had godlike powers and
that's true,
destroyed the entire universe.
That's true. And this is just me playing comic book nerd and putting on my comic book hat. That's what I'm doing now. If that's true, what Gary Mitchell has, he's no different than Franklin Richards. So if Kirk was around little Franklin, he'd be like, murder the guy. Murder him. He's going to be a threat to the universe. I'm a cowboy. His mom's hot, so we'll save her.
And Franklin's uniform was also a T-shirt. So that fits. That's slightly older Franklin.
But then there was that one weird scene where they went down to the planet and there's Deathbird and Gary Mitchell. And then there's those dudes behind him wearing spandex. Chad, can you show that picture of those rando guys with a T on his chest and it was.
That must have been Carl and Ricky. James.
It was so.
Oh, come on! That is the quintessential 1990s hairband. Look at that, man.
Gary and the T-Bird? Wait, no.
Yes.
So
That is a rock and roll band if I ever saw one.
That with the costumes of the Star Trek folks, which again are kind of goofy anyways. It's amazing how like those mini skirts that like all the Star Trek ladies had to wear at that time was standard issue for some bizarre reason. But like that, and then you have like these hunky dudes. Ooh!
Here comes the money.
I love this. A $100 anonymous donation. Thank you, Anonymous. They said Hawkeye and Hawkman. That's your mashup, I guess. Hawkeye and Hawkman.
Okay.
Let's see. This seems like it'd be easy. It's a guy who shoots arrows and has wings and gets killed by Cupid for stealing his gimmick. Starts a war with the angels. And then it becomes a Spawn book, and then Angela comes down, but he can't use Angela anymore, so then that gets...
These hunky dudes. Ooh!
Here comes the money.
$5.25 donation from Chris Yaney, who wants you to cross over Howard the Duck and Archie Bunker from All in the Family.
Oh, wow. That's super easy. They're sitting there Barker loungers, smoking cigars.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, but that's after... Because you know that Arch is never going to let Howard date his daughter. Suzanne Summers is never going out on a date with a duck. We all saw what happened to Leah Thompson.
You call him a featherhead, I guess, maybe?
That's right. Her career never recovered.
Oh, right? They're going to find out that they have so many things in common. They both wear drab suits.
They both don't go with underwear.
That's right. They're both existing in worlds they didn't make. They don't know what the heck's going on. Everything's wrong, and they're all cranky and cantankerous. And yeah, I'm sure they could bond over that. Before you know it, they're both making fun of Meathead or Sweat Hog or whatever that guy's name is.
Sweat Hog. That was Welcome Back, Carl.
I get the
Sweat Hog.
They all run together, those.
By the way, just speaking off the cuff, I actually like the sequel to All in the Family more. Archie Bunker's Place, where Archie owns a bar. That's actually because I never really liked the mom on that show. Like, what? I didn't. She was only supposed to be 40. 40 on that show. She looked like she was 80.
She was wonderful. She was so kind.
People were older back in the day. They were older when they were younger.
That's just what 40-year-olds back in the day looked like. They looked like they were 87.
You got to remember, exactly. When you were 25 in the 1970s, you wore a suit.
That's right. And you didn't have sunscreen.
My life.
This is what, they didn't have sunscreen. Every building they went into was filled with people smoking cigarettes, like literally everywhere they went.
Disco ages you, man. You know how bad that is for your joints?
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Edith was a dingbat, Yaney. That was the thing, the dingbat.
Poor Edith.
And now I need to get a T-shirt that just says "Sweat Hogs was not on All in the Family." I think that's what I'm learning from this show.
What was his name? The director guy. What was his name?
Norman Lear, the creator.
No, the Suzanne Summers boyfriend.
It's Rob Reiner.
Yeah, it's Rob Reiner.
Yeah. But what was his character? Meatwad. Meatwad. That's another one. We'll put him in there.
I think his actual character name was Michael.
Oh man, don't put me on that show.
All right. Well, that's the first half of Live Stream for the Cure. We got to take a quick commercial break. So stay tuned for more of this awesome past recording coming up right after these messages.
Okay. It's the Mary Tyler Moore Show, but featuring Carnage. Buddy Harrelson.
So it should have been Cheers. He was actually on that show.
Hey, it's Mikey Wood, frequent Last Comic Shop guest and collector. And as a collector, I'm always in need of boards, bags, long boxes, and more to house all those comics. That's why I use promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off my orders at BCWSupplies.com. Not only does it get me a discount on BCW's already low prices, but I know using LCSPOD at checkout is another way I can show my support to the Last Comic Shop podcast in their continuing mission to bring fans together under that big comic book tent. So if you're in need of comic book supplies, head out to BCWSupplies.com and use promo code LCSPOD today. That's LCSPOD.
When you're done listening to this podcast, check out mine. My name is Dave, and I'm the host of Beer in Front. My podcast is just enjoying the beer that's in front of you. Sometimes we forget about a classic beer while we focus on the new trendy thing. What I try to do each week is to enjoy an old school classic or have a beer that has potential to be a classic. I'll also talk about events of the day, I'll add my spin to things, and each week there are people that really annoy me, and I'll call them out as the jag-off of the week. That's Beer in Front, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, so make sure that you get out your $5, folks. Throw out that $5, throw out that $10. Let's make some money, folks. You got us for another half an hour. Let's keep going. Again,
Here's another sampler for you guys. Boston Legal, but instead of William Shatner, we get Captain Kirk on Boston Legal trying to prosecute crimes. And then instead of James Spader, we get Ultron and see how they do in that lawyer sitcom.
No, that's terrible.
I think you get the Fantastic Four mashed up with the A-Team, and they're chased by Doctor Doom, who goes around saying, "This is where the A-Team becomes the B-Team."
Warehouse all the time, and Mr. Fantastic's like, well,
Yes.
luckily there's a molecular disintegrator over here and a welding kit. We can make an awesome...
Imagine the montages you can have with that.
To kill nobody, because nobody dies, even though there's lots of bullets and explosions. Nobody dies on this.
That's it. I love it when a plan comes together. It's a 45-minute soliloquy about what Reed Richards is doing before the Thing tells him he's afraid of heights and doesn't want to jump out of that airplane.
So yeah, X-Men and the Star Trek.
I think it wasn't long enough. As we said, there wasn't a lot of Sulu or Chekhov or Uhura in it. There was also not a lot of some of the X-Men characters got a bit of short shrift. I mean, Storm shows up for like 2 scenes. Gambit is there to be hurt.
Yeah,
and
go to the med bay.
That's the episode where he wasn't contracted to be on. Like he was.
I mean, thank God it's not a Next Generation comic, because I need to have been hitting on Crusher the whole time in the sick bay, right?
Yeah, don't worry, man. It's the 90s. They did one of those.
There we go.
Yes.
We got you.
Evidently it was popular enough that they had to come up with a sequel. Yeah, you're right, J.A. They didn't actually do a lot with anybody, did they? Except for Bishop. Like, Bishop was the big
Bishop and Jean Grey, and I guess Wolverine.
I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Star Trek only went 3 seasons. They didn't have a lot to work with.
I'm sorry.
What are you talking about? How dare you, sir? It only went for 3 seasons, yet we're still talking about this show that ran for 3 seasons back in the 1960s. San Diego Comic Con, from a Comic Con, into like this mega movies, all kinds of stuff. Nothing but
Forget the Star Trek, folks. Let's talk Shane O'Mac, folks. I heard that theme song.
He's coming in. He's jumping off the Titantron. So, yeah, I was inspired by Dan coming in here doing the Meatwad voice, so I donated $10, and I want Aqua Teen Hunger Force and the Justice League.
Wow. Well, Shake, he's going to walk into that joint and say, I run this place. Like, he's going to come in, he's going to be the Drizzle. You remember the Drizzle? I love the Drizzle. He's going to come in and he's going to be like, I am the Fume. I got all the powers of the rain, and when it comes down, justice will reign.
Obviously, he owes Bruce Wayne money, and so that's what gets them in the same room in the first place. Frylock's trying to keep everything cool, but then he encounters Martian Manhunter, who is also trying to keep things cool. A nice conversation over some Oreos.
Batman is actually Master Shake in disguise.
At the end of the episode, we bring in the Wonder Twins, and they become a form of water and hang out on the side with Aqua Teen Hunger Force, cleanse the palate and whatnot.
Right, why not? Yeah, if you got hamburgers and fries and a shake, you do need a glass of water to wash that down with, and probably some sort of hawk to eat the leftovers, I guess, or a seagull or something.
Are we going to pull in, what's his name, the Hawkman lawyer?
Harvey Birdman.
Harvey Birdman.
We could. We could bring in the Space Ghost guys if you really wanted to. Like, that would be great. That would be great. You'd have Brack coming on and singing that Bean song. It would be good stuff. Do we give you a good one? there, Nick?
Now, I gotta donate again. Hang on, I can't just get free ones because I'm the host here. I gotta do the thing for real here. No, I gotta get it in here. You guys vamp, do your thing.
Back to Star Trek.
Let's get to ratings. So JA, we usually gives us a 1 out of 4 scale for our particular books every single week. So JA, what's our 1 out of 4 scale for the X-Men Star Trek crossover?
1 out of 4 phaser banks.
Ooh. There you go.
What is a phaser bank? Is that because all the short skirts on set?
That's where you keep your phasers when you're not using them.
Okay.
That's right.
That's right.
I'm unfamiliar. I'm not a Star Trek.
You can use the phaser ATM card to get it out. It's fine. We'll go ahead and start off with Chad. He seemed to be the most enthralled by this book, or at least was like, oh, yeah, this is fine. So was it fine, Chad?
Dude, I love this stuff. This is 90s art at the 90s-ing. I love Marc Silvestri. And then, like I said, the fact that the colors were enhancing the Silvestri art, that's like, taking peanut butter and chocolate and somehow elevating that to the next level.
Circles back around. There it is. So I thought of another one when, for whatever reason, Jay mentioned that Master Shake is Batman. I was like, all right, so what I need now is I need the Venture Brothers and Batman, specifically because I need Bruce Wayne is missing, so Hank decides, because he always dresses up like Batman anyway, that he's going to become Batman.
Yes.
And take up the mantle.
Well, I will say this. The Venture Brothers is by far one of the greatest television shows out there. If you have not watched The Venture Brothers, you need to watch it now. I think it's wrapped up by now. They finally put out a final movie just, I think, last fall. And so you can watch the entire series. But boy, is it wonderful.
Yep.
If you're a comic book fan or even remotely a comic book fan, you're going to pick out all these little Easter eggs. And it's super easy to have Hank be Batman because he just steals all of his dad's tech that his dad stole off of his dad. And then you got the Monarch, who's the Monarch's turn as being the Green Hornet stand-in was super awesome. So if he wants to, there's just so many possibilities, right?
Wait, can we go back to the dads? Is this like how Thomas Wayne dressed up like Batman before Bruce Wayne became Batman? And they were all Batmans? Were those guys interacting together?
At a party, yes. At a party, yes. And then you could just bring in all of the bad guys to be the Rogues Gallery members. And they'd all feel bad for Hank. So they just show up and we're like, yeah, I'll pretend, you got Orpheus, he'll show up and he'll be like, I'll put on a Dr. Fate mask and pretend I'm Dr. Fate for a little while. The Alchemist put on a red wig and pretend that he's Poison Ivy. There's a myriad of options here. So Nick, thank you so much for even just mentioning the Venture Brothers and how awesome that show is. But I think there's a lot you can
there would be there'd be so much fertile ground for it, because you think about it too, a lot of that show is about Jonas Sr., so Thomas Wayne and Jonas Sr. definitely would have been broing it up in their their Super Friends group with the Sean Connery James Bond knockoff that just straight up murks people left and right, everything like that. Thomas Wayne would have been part of that whole group. Yeah,
no, it's absolutely right. I'm not doing it justice, but it's a great idea. And I think it's a plug to watch the Venture.
Here we go.
All right.
I just saw the word all in the family again. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we already do this? But Anonymous, another $100 donation. I don't know who you are, Anonymous, but thank you. All in the family as Alpha Force doing a rendition of All About Eve.
Alpha Force? They mean Alpha Flight?
Yeah.
I don't know if I know Alpha Force.
I mean, for $100, I'll pull up Google.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make up a team. So there's a team called Alpha Force, right? And they're just made up of a bunch of jabronis, right? I don't know, Hypno Hustler and
But are they Canadian? I don't know if Archie Bunker is going to put up with Canadians.
It's a series of adventure novels aimed at teenagers. The eponymous Alpha Force are a group of 5 teenagers with unique talents, skills, and personalities who were shipwrecked together in the first book, and after being forced to work together as a team, created strong friendships with each other. Okay.
So the kids from Captain Planet?
Pretty
with
much.
The heart and the fire? My Alpha Force Google got me shoes. So we can say they're all wearing kick-ass Nikes.
From what I'm reading on Wikipedia, Alpha Force is a British novel series. So obviously, Archie Bunker is not going to like them Scots.
He's not. But again, he doesn't mind kids. He doesn't. So as long as they're outside playing stickball or whatever it is they do in the streets, he's fine.
Yeah. But I'm guessing as long as they're below like the Midlands, anything above the Midlands, he's like, no, York, Leeds, forget that. If you're from London, if you're from the south of the country of England, that's okay. Yeah. But up those Welsh people, those Scottish people, no, thank you.
There's no Cockney in Archie's bar. No Cockney.
But didn't they also throw in All About Eve, which is like
All About Eve was in there too, yeah. So they're as these teenagers from this book series doing a rendition of All About Eve. I don't know what All About Eve is.
All right. So All About Eve, that's a Betty Davis movie. Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, evidently.
We're just going to say yes and just go.
Okay.
Run with it.
So it's a backstage story revolving around aspiring actress Eve Harrington. Tattered and forlorn, Eve shows up in the dressing room of a Broadway megastar Margot Channing, telling a melancholy life story to Margot and her friends. Margot takes Eve under her wing and appears Eve is a conniver that is using Margot.
So the question is, who plays Betty Davis? And no one does. Betty Davis plays herself.
That's right. You got.
And who is she conniving? Young Archie? Young Archie Bunker, who's also simultaneously Archie from Archie Comics? Wears the vest and the Archie-based outfit.
And then Reggie's in there, and Veronica, and Betty. And then you just bring them in, and we're just forgetting about Alpha Force altogether.
I'm starting
at the bar.
I'm starting to slip into the different layers here. I'm getting lost.
I think it's a plug to watch the next.
Here we go.
All right.
I just saw anonymous with a $50 donation says blue.
Blue.
Like for Blue's Clues? Is we throwing blue from Blue's Clues in this?
Can we throw in blue from
Is
Blue's
Archie
Clues?
Bunker Steve from Blue's Clues? Do that one.
Well, it's good until they get mail from some foreign immigrants. And then, oh boy, Steve goes off. Old Stevie Bunker delivers a tirade, and poor Blue needs to teach him about acceptance.
I love it.
Come on. There's a pencil and a pad of paper that talk, maybe.
Yeah, they get excited about mail.
It's mail time. So Blue is like trying to teach about tolerance, and then the mail comes.
Yeah, they find out Magenta's actually
A-Force novels that somebody had to buy because they didn't know what the hell they were. They were like, I need to sit away so I can do some research on this. And in that with it is a VHS tape of All About Eve. So they all sit down, they watch it because they got to get ideas. They're expanding their minds. They're getting more intelligent. They're becoming more tolerant. And then Blue wins by default. So, yeah.
Blue helps Archie find the clues he needs to gain
That's
tolerance.
true.
I actually think we messed this whole thing up. Alpha Force is also a testosterone supplement. So,
that makes a lot more sense with Betty Davis.
There you go.
He grabs some Alpha Force. He gives that syringe. He just jams it in his ass.
Brings a whole new meaning to Betty Davis' eyes.
I'm gonna fight anybody, including Blue, if they try to not teach me. I don't know. I'm going.
And then here comes Bluey as a surprise guest.
What's your rating?
Back to Star Trek v X-Men.
Oh shit! I forgot we were even talking about that.
Heck yeah, so did we. No, this was fun, and I like the fact that it was silly. I like the fact that it was short. If this was 5 or 6 issues, I would have lost attention way into it. But I'm going to give it a 3.75. I think this is exactly what you want out of a crossover. They show up, they do the Vulcan death pinch. You know, you get some X-Men melodrama. I was shocked how well the universes molded together with Proteus and Gary as Grotius. But everything seemed to work. They found a way to make it work. And so for that, I think that's a successful crossover.
All right, J.A., you're both the X-Men and Star Trek fan. Real quickly, your grade?
Yeah, I was amazed how well the spandex and polyester worked together. You've got so. If anything, I can ding it. It wasn't quite long enough. I could have used another 20 pages. I could have used a bit more Star Trek characters and X-Men characters. I just think that the people that they were playing with didn't. Some of them got a bit of a short shrift, but it's a 3. It's solid. Is it great? No. The art is great. Love that Silvestri art, but it's weird. It's just weird. What they're drawing from episode 3 of Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before, and the X-Men, where Proteus first shows up, Uncanny X-Men 125 through 128. Those alone are much better than this mashup, I think. So if you want sort of the parents of the mashup, and that would be my recommendation, is to read those before you and watch the show before you get into this. The sum of its parts, the parts are better than the sum.
Yeah. Well, I think where I'll close out here is saying, like, again, I don't think you need to know a ton about the X-Men or Star Trek to enjoy this. Like, I think you know enough from pop culture to be like, oh yeah, I know these characters. And they really only play with the big ones. Like, Bishop, I think, is the only one where people would scratch their heads and go like, who the hell is this guy? All right, well, whatever, he's on this team. But everybody else, Storm, Cyclops, Jean Grey, as anybody that even remotely knows about the X-Men probably knows about them. But I am surprised, gentlemen. I am surprised that you're giving this such good grade. This is like a 2. Here we go. All right, see, Saved by the Bell. What's going on here?
Well, that was my brother jumping in there with a $19.74 donation, because I guess Chris, you're the one that ruined it yesterday and made it uneven, so now he evened it back up again at $1,800 even. Thank you so much, Chris, for the donation in there. Chris, if you got 2 things you want to mash up, we still got a couple minutes.
Yeah, there you go.
Comic book and a TV show, or if you a testosterone supplement, shoe brand, whatever the hell you want to throw in there. Apparently.
But I will say, this is like a 2. This is the closest thing to shoving peanut butter and ham together. Trying to make a sandwich. Maybe putting toothpaste on top. Like,
peanut butter and bananas.
That works is
it's
the art.
Peanut butter and bananas.
No.
What kind of ham?
This thing works. Kirk, just off guard, he's like, who the hell is this guy punching a spaceship? And I think some people might think that's cool. I was just like, all right, this is going off the rails at this point. And then, like, the Vulcan neck pinch on Wolverine, he would have been eviscerated. I don't care what Spock does. Like, he would have been eviscerated by Wolverine. That's Wolverine, damn it.
I gotta know the answer to one question, then I'm gonna rate this on a scale of 1 to 4, like you guys. One answer: does Kirk bang any of the X-Men?
Oh,
He tries to. He tries to.
No.
4 out of 4.
Get it on
4 out of 4, done.
He banged Storm and Jean Grey at the same time.
10 out of 4. 20 out of 4.
What page was that?
Yeah, I'm looking for that one in here. I don't see that.
Andy's got the special edition, that's all.
Because nobody can match the machismo.
I think Gary gets some Deathbird.
That's the only reason Kirk was on that Enterprise, was to propagate the human species when he meets other races. He's like, gotta seed it.
Oh my goodness. There's a reason no man has gone there before. It's kind of boring.
Gentlemen, this has been an absolute treat, an absolute blast. Thank you guys so much for spending some time here. Grim of Kings is absolutely correct. Cancer sucks. Donate now. 100% of all of your donations go to the Cancer Research Institute, to a world immune to cancer. So thank you guys, everybody who did donate. Hashtag red shirts for the cure. Are we just?
I like it.
Are we murking?
Like it.
Are we murking strangers to get a cure for cancer? I mean, you're just absolutely incredible, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Nick. Hey, continue donating,
Thank you.
folks.
Thank
Continue
you.
donating. Stick around for all of the live stream for the cure. It is awesome. Let us beat cancer. Woo!
Well, that was the end of the live stream for the Cure show, but we still have some recommendations. We don't want to let you go without giving you some more to read besides Star Trek X-Men. So let's hit them up.
Hear me out. Wait, before we get to that. It's The Office, but instead of selling paper in Scranton, they're actually the TVA and out trying to hunt Loki, and hilarity ensues.
There you go. Any case, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my recommendation this week, and this is another famous team teaming up with the X-Men. This time, though, they happen to be in the same universe, and it actually makes a lot more sense. It is the Uncanny Avengers, Volume 1, called The Red Shadow. Now, this was done by Rick Remender with John Cassidy on art. It is the fallout from the X-Men versus Avengers mega event that happened in Marvel in the 2010s, where simply put, the X-Men and the Avengers fought, and eventually Cyclops kills Charles Xavier or something like that. But long story short, in the fallout of that massive conflict between these two super teams, Captain America thinks it's a great idea to create a joint team of Avengers made up of both classic members of the Avengers and classic members of the X-Men. So you get classic members of the Avengers like Thor and Scarlet Witch and Captain America and Wonder Man and Wasp. And then you've got other classic members of the X-Men like Havoc, Rogue, and Sunfire and Wolverine. And they all join forces. And the first book is all about what would happen if their major adversary was a Red Skull that somehow took over the brain of Charles Xavier. That's right. He gets all of the psychic powers of Charles Xavier, yet he's the evil Red Skull. So he's out there trying to seed hatred among mutants and humans and trying to create a race war. And it's up to the Avengers X-Men coalition to stop the Red Skull before he can do that. And it's just a marvelous first volume to a really, really great continuing series from there. I would highly recommend reading the entire run. It leads up to eventually Axis, which I didn't really think was a great event, but that doesn't mean that these issues aren't. So if you have an opportunity, snag them, especially the first volume with that John Cassidy art, The Red Shadow, one of my favorite Avengers teams of all time. You get Havoc and Captain America on the same team. How awesome is that? J.A.
I'm going to recommend Uncanny X-Men 125 through 128. That is the original Chris Claremont, John Byrne Proteus run. Though if you've got the Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume 1, it's in there, but it also has the setup, which starts all the way back in issue 104 and then also appears in issue 119, because Chris Claremont building up years of backstory before he even gets into a run. And again, 125 through 128, that's 4 issues of great story that all connects, and by the way, that's also the start Dark Phoenix there, which doesn't take off until issue 130 or something, 135. I mean, seriously, Chris Claremont just, this is in his heyday setting up. And also, while you're on that tick, have a watch of Where No Man Has Gone Before, episode 3 of Star Trek, the second pilot, essentially, with Gary Lockwood holding duties as James Kirk's best friend. Well, he was until he was not, because he was killed, and then McCoy and Spock became his best friends.
Right,
because
they three-dimensional chess in that episode. Yeah. Actually, I think that was made because they thought the original pilot, The Cage, wasn't action-packed enough.
It was too cerebral.
Yes, and this was more punching and kickings and fighting over graves and things. It's really kind of a dark episode, honestly.
It's all about laying the groundwork for Grodius. Just took 30 years to pay off.
All right, Chad, what's your recommendation?
Okay, so my recommendation is Saved by the Bell, but Zach Morris is using his time-stopping power for evil, but he is felled by Mr. Belding's new friend and new substitute teacher, Bishop. Can you imagine Bishop facing down AC Slater and Zach Morris and the crew? I think that'd be a great show. No, my recommendation, I'm going to go with another crossover. This one just came out recently through DC Comics, and it was a combination with an Italian publisher. The book is called Batman Dylan Dog by Roberto Recchioni, with art by Gigi Cavanago and Werther Deledra from Something's Killing the Children. And so you have Dylan Dog, who is a nightmare investigator, and he teams up with Batman, and they are trying to stop one of Dylan Dog's previous main foes, who had been killed but is resurrected by the Joker. Fast forward a little bit, they go to hell with the help of Constantine and a certain demon, and then they come out the other side. Dylan Dog has a sidekick who is basically Groucho Marx for some reason. I don't understand. But the whole story is fun. It's a nice little mashup of the world of Batman with this nightmare investigator character who has tons of charm and swagger. The crossover ran 3 issues, and it's definitely worth your time. It's Batman Dylan Dog.
Well, there you go. And that's all the time we had for Last Comic Shop this week. Make sure that you're checking us out every single week over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. We've always got brand new stuff, whether you've heard it before or it happens to be strategically placed repeat. You'll get something from us, and everything is evergreen. So believe it or not, all of the repeats that we have in our library, you can go back and listen to, even if you've listened to them before.
They might be new to you.
Exactly. You may have not read the book the first time that you listened to it. Now you've read the book and you're like, oh gosh, I got to go back and listen to because now all their comments make more sense. Yeah.
Maybe you want to relive our crossover heydays and go back to Superman v. Amazing Spider-Man, or Batman v. the Amazing Hulk, or Superman Muhammad Ali.
Classic.
Oh, that's a favorite.
All those episodes available in our archives, www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. Also on YouTube. All those episodes on YouTube. Check it out there, too.
There you go. And a lot of those issues available at your local comic shop. Well, we're the Last Comic Shop podcast. We don't actually want to be the last comic shop, so we encourage you guys to get out there. Look for things like the book we talked about on this show, Star Trek X-Men. Or you could check out things like the Uncanny Avengers X-Men mashup. Maybe you just want to go back to the old school classics. Get that volume 1 of Uncanny X-Men, that omnibus. That's some of the best comics out there. You get Claremont and Cochran, Claremont and Byrne. We get Wolverine coming up out of the sewer. There's so much good stuff.
They don't do it anymore in this age of decompressed storytelling. The interlude.
Oh, yes.
Where halfway through the main story, you get 2 pages of interlude, which is setting up something that's not going to take place for a year and a half.
That's right. That's the Z plot. You have the A plot and the B plot in most books. This one has Z plots and double A plots going on, because that's how Claremont works. And then also don't forget about that classic Star Trek episode where No Man Has Gone Before, episode 3, season 1, one of the pilots is telling us all about it. Or if you want something more modern, look to see if your shop has copies of Batman Dylan Dog still on the shelves. That was good too. But all of that more waits for you at your local comic shop. Make sure you check them out. And then circle back to our website, www.lastcomicshoppodcast, where you can find what else this week, J.A.?
We've got links to our merch store. You can get spandex and or polyester to go along with our T-shirts, coffee mugs, tote bags. That's right. While you can get a red shirt, and you can get it in red, I don't recommend it.
Doesn't end well.
No, man, that's bad branding. I'm not happy.
Yeah, make sure that you're picking up those T-shirts, because again, if you get the Heathers, which we recommend, the Heathers are super soft. A lot of those do have polyester. They're a poly cotton blend, and man, do they feel nice, especially here in the summertime with the summer logo Last Comic Shop shirt still available out on our website. Make sure that you're checking us out every single week. And until next week, I was the host with the most, Andy Larson. I was joined by Chad Smith and J.A. Scott, and we hope that you stay safe. Stay fighting. That's right. For those folks that have been affected by cancer, make sure that you know that we are there with you. We are trying our best to raise money, raise awareness, get the word out, find those places that are trying to beat cancer. We can do it in our lifetimes, folks. Let's go. Right, guys?
All right, it's Married with Children, but you replace Peggy Bundy with Mystique, and you replace Bud Bundy with Morph, and nothing else changes. Everything's the same.
The Last Comic Shop podcast was a 2024 Black Angus production.